What's up? Does Christianity keep the black man submissive to the white man? Truly. Now, as a person who believes in God, I'm not going to give you a biased type of response when I'm thinking about this and when I'm making this video, right? Let's be real and let's live in reality of what actually happened and what's actually happening now, right? So when you look at history and you look at slavery, uh they 80 to 90% of black people were illiterate, did not know how to read and write when we were coming out of slavery, when we just got freed and stuff. And it's just very funny, not funny, but it's very strange to me how we have so many people who may believe in God, but they don't prioritize self-education and educating themselves and learning how to do for themselves, do for their do for themselves, right? Because a man could be castrated, lynched, hung, you know, all type of crazy type of punishments if they were teaching their kids or they were learning how to read and write and stuff. They would literally be punished for learning how to read and write, but they still had churches. They still gave the slaves Bibles, right? And let's really look at that. And why would they give you a Bible, but then punish you if you ever try to learn how to read and write? And the Bible is something you have to be able to comprehend, and to me, have a certain level of intellect to understand and comprehend. It's a book. You got to know how to read it. And so we were so submissive and dumb because of them keeping us dumb, them keeping us learning how to read and write. And it was so evil that you got to think to yourself, if God is real, wouldn't he show up? Wouldn't something happen? Wouldn't things change? Because I'm pretty sure at that time it was black Christians who were slaves, but they didn't know how to read and write. So you gotta really understand, did they really know how to read the Bible? No, most of them. I would make a logical assumption that no, they probably, most of them did not know how to read the Bible, right? Or basically everybody, basically all the slaves did not know how to read the Bible. And the white Christian knew how to read the Bible, but was the white Christian slave owner living by the Bible? No, he was not living by the Bible, but he used the Bible as a tool to he used the Bible as a tool to keep the black man submissive and to keep the black man under an assumption that this is how God wanted it to be, right? Because you would see, you can look up stuff where it talk about the slaves and all that type of stuff in the Bible, and that's what a lot of the slave owners would use to reinforce the idea that, oh, this is, God made it this way. So I'm your slave owner, you're the slave, and that's how God made it. And the more I look at that, it's like, dang, you know, is God gonna show up? Is God gonna change something? And the more I look at that, the more I start to get to a place where I can't give a proper answers to it, because I it's clear that they had their way with us and there was no intervention. The only intervention it was when we had other people fight for us and we fought for ourselves. More importantly, we fought for ourselves to be free, to be, treated like a human being. And so I understand believing in God can be a, a very positive thing if you actually read the Bible and follow it, right? But as you look at Christianity, a lot of the time Christianity was not used um in a way where people were actually Christians and people were actually living for God. People used it as a mechanism of control to make things be as though God ordained it to be that way. And I think that that's how um a lot of slave masters and people who own slaves, that's how they kind of found they were at peace with themselves because they was thinking, oh, God made it this way, or this is how God made it, right? None of those white Christians were actually reading the Bible and having love in their heart for people. They were using it as in, you know what, how can I control these people? How can I get my way in so I can dominate against these people and take over their land? Because remember, the white people are the ones that um they were the colonizers. They were the ones who really put colonizing and conquering people on the map. Black people don't do that. Black people didn't do that, right? Or at least we didn't do it in violence in the way they would do it. And we look at that, and I just think to myself sometimes it's very when we look at everything I just said and we look at those situations, what would we need more of that was actually going to help us? And I would say the very obvious answer would be we needed more self education and we needed more mental power that we had to use because they had to make us very mentally weak, very mentally where we can't think for ourselves. They had to make us basically like an actual animal, like a dog, right? Was that because we had a natural intellect of a dog? No. We were made, we were, we were put down lower purposely to keep us slaves, right? Not only just physically, but mentally. Because when you look at a lot of these punishments would be very physical and very torturing, but a lot of them would be um, punishments to psychologically make the black man weak and the black man inferior, to make him feel inferior, right? And I would say that Christianity by itself is just something to be used a lot of the times. It's something to be used. And the people who have a good intention will use Christianity, and Christianity will help everybody. And the wrong people will get the hands of Christianity and they're going to use it their way. They're going to use it to hurt a lot of people and to conquer a lot of people, right? But I would say the most important thing in this situation that we have to understand is the most important, and what's really the the key difference as to why the white man could do that to black people and the black man, went under like that. And that's because firstly, we have to understand it was a nature to that white man, it was a nature to that black man, and one was a little bit more evil than the other one, despite intellect. But I would say that the most important thing that we have to understand is being self-educated and learning how to use our mind, right? This is why education is very valuable. It is very valuable, but up until a certain point, that's where you get to places where it has to actually be useful, and that's a different conversation. But I would say the most important thing is self-education and learning how to use your mind to help yourself and learning how to use your mind to help others. I would say that that's the most powerful thing that you need to not be a slave mentally, to not be weak mentally, is learning how to create for yourself and do for yourself. That is the most important thing because that was the key difference as to how people can get control over you, right? Because if you look at it, an African is stronger than a European. On a physical level, we were always more capable on the physical level. And there's just really evil things that had to come into place that weren't because a white man was smarter, but it was because a white man had a nature of conquering and taking over, and the black man does not necessarily have that nature because we were the very first people. We don't feel that way. We don't feel like we have to take over other people, right? If you look at it scientifically, all of life started in Africa. And so we have to look at the nature of things, but that's not the point of the video. The point is the video. The point of the video is to understand that the most important thing you can have is self-knowledge and self-educating and learning about yourself and learning how to use your mind in a way that helps you and your community and your people. That's the most important thing, and this is not a thing of, oh, you're God, and that's not what I'm saying. But I would say that the most valuable part of a human being is a human being's mind, and that's the thing that really is the key decider. Is if the key decider on if you're going to be a follower or a leader or a slave master or a slave. It's not going to be who's bigger and stronger on the physical level. Most of the battles you fight in life aren't the ones you fight with your hands. It's the ones you fight in your mind. And that is just the thing that we have to understand when it comes to religion, is that don't let the religion make you weak. Make the religion make you stronger. And you do that by becoming educated and learning how to use your mind to help people, to help yourself. So that's all I got to say.